Okay, greetings everyone. If you're watching this video, you're probably a little bit concerned about orders at OCS. This one specifically is geared towards Marine officer candidates. So, for your skeleton, anything in bold, it's on your skeleton. You can just write those words out, and then as you get information, you can fill that out. Gray, I'm only like 80% sure this is in the OCS order. And then italics. So this is not in the order, but you need to know and understand it. If you reach out to me with questions, I'll be more than happy to explain. Okay, 5 paragraph order, OSMEAC. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay, the O is a prologue. The SMEAC is the order. I like to think of it as the Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You know, the Hobbit isn't part of the trilogy, but it's definitely a part of the story. And you even can find box sets of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then there will still be a Hobbit, the prologue. It's necessary. But then imagine that the Hobbit itself has its own foreword. So this stuff right here, this isn't in the order, but it's definitely important to know. So this is going to reference this, which is like a kindergarten drawing of a terrain model, which I'll definitely explain later, but basically just something you make in the ground that's supposed to represent your area of operations. Like it has your north, east, south, and west boundaries, and then like certain key terrain, you know? So you don't just give an order, you should explain like what's going on. So this is very important. You know, if you're in a combat zone and you're giving your subordinates an order, well, you need some people to quote post security, which they will face outwards, check for any enemy in sight, anything like that. So I say if in a fire team, pick a person. If in a squad, the fire team leaders will listen to what you're saying and then everyone else post security. But there has to be a proportional amount of security. So if your fire team is going to be less than a squad. So that's just like a little bit at the beginning. Okay, next thing you should say is north is as depicted. So going back here, that north and whoop, it's that way. Now you'll have compasses, so please orient your terrain model to face like the actual true north. All right, then I like to start off by saying, I mean, you could say, good morning, Marines, gather around the terrain model, whatever. But you really just want to say where you are. We are currently in our fire team, squad, platoon, whatever, assembly area. Now, when I say kneel and point to it, there's certain times when you're delivering your order that you should be like kneeling down and pointing out stuff. So if you say north is as depicted, like point and point north. And then if you want to say we're currently located in the assembly area, point to this. So at OCS, I would say our terrain models were like 3 feet by 3 feet. They're pretty small. And we could point. At TBS, next phase, we have them like 6 feet by 6 feet. We use our entrenching tools to like represent elevation, and you could stand around and walk in it. If you want to do that, kudos to you. But OCS, we kept them pretty small. Okay. Then going on, our area of operation is bounded by example road to the north, point to it. Example creek to the east, also point to it. Example trail to the south, indicate it. And example highway to the west. And then you actually want to indicate it. Okay, so that is pretty standard for any sort of order. Now, there's in the orientation, this is not required, but if you know the acronym OCOCA W, observation, cover and concealment, obstacles, key terrain, avenues of approach, and weather, you'll knock this one out of the park. So let's get out our, if I could somehow make this just a little bit smaller, we'll get out our example order. So in this situation, the one that I came up with this background situation. The year is 2015, and the Philadelphia Police Department has requested the help of the Marine Corps to locate a trap house used for human trafficking, kill the traffickers, and safely take the victims to a safe house. Your battalion's intelligence unit has received information about the possible location of the trap house within the park. So, in this order, you are first squad leader, Corporal Savigny, and you, along with the second and third squad leaders, are at the terrain model where your platoon commander, first platoon commander, Captain Chavez, is briefing their order. At this time, you will jot down relevant information that you will use to create your order, and then brief your fire team leaders, Lance Corporals Koch, Bardem, and Menendez. But before we get into this, so here I have the terrain model. Then here, this is a very terrible drawing. It looks like someone in kindergarten did it, but that was actually my artwork. So, this is who briefs you. It's either a platoon commander, which at OCS is going to be a second lieutenant, or a platoon sergeant, which could honestly be a staff sergeant or a gunnery sergeant. So they have already received their order from the company commander, which at OCS is a major, or the company executive officer, which is a captain. So since your superior is first platoon commander, there's also a second platoon commander and a third commander. But we're doing this. Even though you'll start off fire team operations, sorry. I feel like if you know how to write a squad order, you'll be fine. So this is you. If you're squad leader, you're gonna have the little corporal insignia. And then this is who you brief. Fire team leader 1, 2, and 3. And a fire team is made up of 4 Marines. So check this out. Most of OCS, that's going to be you. But in your billet, maybe they'll make you a fire team leader. You could be a squad leader. In the field, you will not be a platoon sergeant or platoon commander. Like in your garrison billet, you would. But usually in the field, like the tactical billet takes over. So you'll either receive an order from captain, gunner sergeant, like it doesn't matter, but you're here, right here. You are the squad leader. Okay, now going back. All right, so since you're squad leader, Corporal Savigny, you are getting your order from first platoon commander, Captain Chavez. So he's up here. That's him. You're here. So he starts off by saying, "Good morning, everyone. Please gather around the train model. Squad leaders, that's you. Please select Marines to post security." So usually you want to keep your fire team leaders. So you send out Bs to post security. Now, just like as I explained before, Captain Chavez says, "North is as depicted." So imagine he is at his terrain model. Oh, one moment. He's at the terrain model. He's going to say, "North is as depicted." Okay, cool. Now we know where north is. Then he says, "We are currently located in our company assembly area, up here, at the northwest corner of the terrain model, in Fairmount Park, Philadelphia. It's a giant park. It's one of the biggest in the country. Then he says our area of operations is bounded by example road to the north, example creek to the east, example trail to the south, and example highway to the west. All right, cool. And at this time, he's kneeling down and explaining this. But he is going to remain kneeling while he goes over this. Say orientation. It's called signposting. You have to say orientation. And you know how I went through the OKOKW? So at this point, we're going to start writing in order. So I don't think there's anything wrong with just completely copying this. And just know that this should probably like memorize. This is not part of the order, but since he's a captain, you're a squad leader, you instead would say, "Good morning, everyone. Please gather on the terrain model." Instead of squad leaders, you, since your subordinates are fire team leaders, please set Marines to post security. And then usually most, but nope, you are going to say keep fire team leaders because they can then tell the Marines what's up. Then nothing wrong, nothing as depicted, and then you have the same AO. Hint at OCS, whatever the higher's AO is, that's probably gonna be yours too. At TBS, you do like maps and plotting points and stuff like that. So if they have points that are more spread out and then yours are clustered in a certain area, you come up with your smaller assembly area or area of operations, I'm sorry. So nothing wrong with keeping that. All right, so now this is like prologue to the prologue. Now we get into orientation. And I'll make this a little simple. So Okoka W. You don't need to know this for OCS, but it's a great tool to use. So the first O, observation. It's a winter morning in Philadelphia, so our observation will be up to 200 meters during the daytime, but only 50 meters as the sun sets. So I will take the time and I'm going to copy this whole thing. Now, this is like an ideal scenario. Usually you have to jot stuff down, annotate, and then come up with your own. We're going to pretend that you, Corporal Savini, saw Captain Chavez go out to, there's a certain tent. He's rumored to be associated with a certain other Marine, whatever, you know he's going to be a while. And you go to his tent to like bum a cigarette, aka steal a cigarette. But then on the table, you see he has his complete order written out. So you're like, oh, I'm going to create my own from this perfect scenario. Later, I'll get into when someone's actually speaking to you and what's important. Anyway, let's copy his orientation. Okay, it's a winter morning in Philadelphia, so our observation will be 200 meters during the daytime, but only 50 meters as the sun sets. Honestly, you're not going very far. It's gonna be the same thing. He's not sending you guys to like the Arizona desert, you know? And I wouldn't stress this. If you're taking this down in a brief, I would just write 200-50. And then you know that means observation. But then you can also look around. So if you're in the winter, there's not a lot of trees, shrubbery, like all that stuff. So you can see pretty far away. And then in the daytime, you know, much shorter. And then in the summer, during the daytime, it might be only 100 meters and at night, like 25. But I'm making this a winter example. Okay, back to Captain Chavez's brief. Our cover will be limited to any trees and boulders. And since it's winter, the absence of dense shrubbery will even further limit our cover. Every Marine must wear camouflage boots. Now, the difference between cover and conceal is cover will protect you from gunfire. Behind a tree, behind a boulder, you know. This more is like concealment. Concealment is if someone shot at you, you'd be in big trouble, but they can't see you. Now, I think bulletproof glass is a funny example because it's like the one thing that provides no concealment, but it definitely provides coverage. So don't overthink this. Newsflash, cover is probably trees and boulders. Like, there's not many walls out there. There's not, like, definitely not bulletproof glass. But concealment will pretty much be the same. Shrubbery. And every Marine must wear camouflage paint. This isn't really that necessary because this is called like an implied task. You know, if I ask someone, hey, can you make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? That's enough. I don't have to say, hey, can you go to that cabinet, open it up, take the peanut butter out, unscrew the lids? I don't have to do that. So this, every Marine must wear camouflage paint. That's this really like an implied task. So we can keep that the same, you know, and you don't have to scribble down everything he says because you can just look around. How far can you see? You can look around. What is your cover and concealment? That's why if you know this acronym, OKOKW, you'll be right. All right, now that second O is obstacles. Obstacles in our AO are Example Creek, which cuts northeast to southwest in the southern portion of our AO, and uneven terrain. So uneven terrain is definitely going to be like always an obstacle. At TBS, you'll have like way more obstacles, but in this, we're keeping it simple. It's really this creek, and then it just turns, pretend that's like physically possible. But this creek that turns here is going to be something that you're going to have to cross. But at TBS, there were things like power grids and not just a creek, but like a river, you know. But at OCS, it's going to be pretty simple. Okay. K. All right, so we can keep that the same. Sorry, I jumped ahead. You can keep the obstacles the same. Newsflash, is probably always gonna be uneven terrain or muddy land, whatever. All right, so the second O is no, we just covered that. My bad. Okay, so the K is key terrain, and key terrain is something that's like very important to both like enemy forces and friendly forces. So in this map that we have, let me pull it up. All right, the quote bad guys, they're up here. It's that trap house where they're doing CD operations. Okay, our objective is located at the top of a steep hill, located in the southeast portion of our AO, and will be a key terrain in our operation. You know, it's up on a hill, there's a lot of visibility. OSEA is just going to be very simple. But other key terrain could be like, so at TBS, you might start here, the objective's here, but there's two like big plateaus here, mesas, whatever. And that could be key terrain because you could set up a machine gun there. But at OCS, it's gonna be simple. Don't overthink it. Okay, the A, avenues of approach. So our avenues of approach are small trails within the AO and a fallen tree discovered by our recon team to cross Example Creek. Don't worry about the recon, that's more like TBS, but so it's basically like, how can you get there? You know, at TBS, it might be like some roads, it might be some trails, but in this is just like pretend there's small trails there, and then you know you can cross this without getting your boots wet. But newsflash, in this scenario, you will be getting wet. All right, then W, weather. Today we'll get to a high of 42 degrees and a low of 25 degrees Fahrenheit. There's always a chance for drizzle, but as of now, we are not expecting any precipitation today. Do not overthink this. They'll tell you the weather. On Liberty, I like to write down the weather for the week, but so I am from Philadelphia, and then Quantico is like 3 hours away. The weather's pretty similar. I know if I go outside, I can kind of tell when it's like 40, 30, or 20. Can I tell 42? Not really. So don't sweat this. Like, think if you're like in February, okay, the high might get to 42, low 25. It's March, might be 50. You know, I wouldn't like sweat this. And then the last part of the orientation is like literally look at your watch. It says the time is now 0900 hours. Are there any questions? People can ask questions. But if there are no questions, you say, hold all questions until the end. Why? Because it gets more involved. We don't want to be interrupting with questions. And then guess what? Oh, there's time to ask questions at the end. So, yeah. So, let's edit here. Okay? No, it's the same because we're not being sent to Arizona. Same terrain, same obstacles, same key terrain, average approach, same weather. So honestly, the orientation like pretty much stays same. So instead of like feverishly writing down stuff, you could probably even like come up with this on your head. So like right now, me in my apartment, I could just say my observation is 15 feet. That's how far away my TV is. And then at night, I can really only see 3 feet in front of me. And then like cover and concealment, I have no idea why I'd be hiding from in here, but if a burglar were to come in, I'd be like, okay, I can go in the closet, hide on the couch, like all this. And then obstacles, so my place has a lot of like, I have a lot of stuff. It's organized, whatever. But an obstacle might be that maybe that my bedroom windows, if you were to jump out, you'd have to land 2 floors down. So that's not really a good place to escape. And avenues of approach, obviously my balcony door and my actual front door, and then my weather. Well, I have a thermostat set to 69 degrees, and so that's gonna be the high and the low. So just like don't overthink this. As long as you know Okoka W, the person briefing you can literally be saying stuff and you can just write down like 2050, like shrubs, here. So yeah, we kept the orientation the same, except since this is the platoon commander, Captain Chavez finishes his brief at 900. But you have to have time to create your own brief and then brief it. So it's probably getting more like 10 o'clock. There's this rule, the 2/3 rule, that if you're a commander and you take up an hour of your subordinate's time, you've already given them 2 hours. So if we take an hour, then we might be ready to go at 1200. But at OCS, everything's crammed. All the times go out the window. So just like literally look at your watch. But yeah, that concludes the orientation portion.